My name is Simone Venner. I'm a registered holistic nutritionist and I specialize in gut health. So many of you may be thinking, yes, but what does gut health have to do with type 2 diabetes or hypertension? And the fact is, those bacteria that live within your gut have the ability to lower cholesterol levels. They play a huge role in heart health. 70% of your immune system is found in your gut, and they also play a role in weight gain and weight loss. So today, my workshop, How Best to Reduce Your Risk of Lifestyle Diseases, is going to focus on both type 2 diabetes and hypertension. We're going to be breaking down what they are, how that works and affects the body, as well as my recommendations to prevent and also support if you have been diagnosed. So any questions, always feel free to reach out. I'm always happy to answer questions. But I'll leave it here for now and take you straight through the workshop. So what is type 2 diabetes? So type 2 diabetes is a serious condition where the insulin your pancreas makes can't work properly, or your pancreas can't make enough insulin. This means your blood glucose, aka your sugar levels, keep rising. Insulin has an incredibly important role as it allows the glucose in our blood to enter our cells and fuel our bodies. Each time you eat, your body breaks down carbohydrates from your food and turns it into glucose. Now, although glucose often gets a bad name, glucose is actually needed to fuel every cell in your body. However, if it's not used, the body then stores this as glycogen and can later be stored as fat. I think it's also important to mention that there is carbs and there are carbs, but we will get into that later on. When eating carbohydrates, the pancreas then responds to this by releasing insulin. But because the insulin can't work properly, your blood sugar levels keep rising. This means more insulin is released. For some people with type 2 diabetes, this can eventually tire out the pancreas, meaning their body will eventually make less and less insulin. This can lead to even higher blood sugar levels and mean that you are at risk of hyperglycemia, which is extreme high blood sugar levels. So what about hypertension? There is evidence to show that Black people of African descent living in the UK are 3 to 4 times more likely to have high blood pressure compared to their white counterparts. High blood pressure or hypertension rarely has noticeable symptoms, but if untreated, it increases your risk of serious problems such as heart attacks and stroke. If your blood pressure is too high, it puts extra strain on your blood vessels, heart and other organs such as your brain, kidneys and eyes. Persistent high blood pressure can increase your risk of a number of serious conditions that can be quite life-threatening, such as heart disease, heart attack, stroke, and heart failure. If you have high blood pressure, reducing it even a small amount can help lower the risk of these health conditions. Over time, the force and friction of high blood pressure damages the delicate tissues inside the arteries. In turn, LDL, bad cholesterol, I like to remember it as L for lousy cholesterol, forms plaque along tiny tears in the artery walls, signifying the start of atherosclerosis, which is the buildup of plaque within the artery, which we can see in this illustration. The buildup makes it harder for blood to pass through the artery, causing pressure. The more the plaque and damage increases, the narrower the inside of the arteries become, raising blood pressure and starting a vicious circle that further harms your arteries, your heart, and the rest of your body. So basically that pressure that builds up within the artery, if you've ever held your thumb over a tap, you know what happens when the pressure is released. And this is what can lead to blood clots. If you have a blood clot that happens around your heart, it's a heart attack. And if it happens on the brain, then it's a stroke. Now we have an understanding of both hypertension and diabetes. Let's look into the lifestyle changes. We have all been told millions of times to reduce our fat intake, but I will let you in on some key points to help you understand the why. When we have too much fat in the system, fat can prevent insulin from entering the cell. And we don't speak enough about this. If we have type 2 diabetes, we all know to reduce our sugar intake, but how often do we look at the fat that we consume? This is one of my first recommendations for anyone dealing with diabetes or who are pre-diabetic, to focus on lifestyle changes to help you lose weight. In many cases, when people start to lose weight, insulin starts to get its mojo back once the fat in the body has been reduced. Now, fat and cholesterol. Some of you may think that you're not really adding that much fat into your diet, but I want to share with you ways that fat seems to sneak into the diet whether you notice it or not. So say on average you're cooking twice a day, and I'm sure most of you are adding a little bit of oil to the pan. Now, I'm not the best with maths here, but say you're having 2 portions a day. 2 times 7 is 14. So that's 14 portions a week. Times it by 4, and over the month, you are having yourself 56 portions of oil per month. And that's before you even get to the ingredients in the meal. If you're having a tablespoon of oil with every meal, and I'm being nice here as I know it can be pretty hard to cook with just 1 tablespoon of oil, but I'll give it the benefit of the doubt. Okay, so 1 tablespoon of oil, let's say olive oil, contains on average around 120 calories. So that times by 56 over the month gives you a whopping 6,720 calories a month. If you base that on your 2,000 calories a day, you are consuming every month 3 days of your caloric intake of oil alone. And over the year, that's 36 days a year. In regards to cholesterol, your body doesn't need to consume cholesterol at all. And this is a fact because your liver actually produces everything it needs. Cholesterol foods should be kept to a minimum. And it's also important to remember that although cholesterol is only found in animal foods, oils high in saturated fat, such as coconut oil, can contribute to your cholesterol levels. So, the good versus the bad. So, carbohydrates. We're going to break this down into 2 groups. The complex carbs and the refined simple carbs. Now, carbs always get a bad name, and to be honest, I feel bad for them, as carbs are some of the healthiest foods on the planet. I repeat, carbohydrates are some of the healthiest foods on the planet. When most people think of carbs, they picture white bread, white rice, potatoes, and pasta. However, these are known as simple carbs, or as I like to call them, foods that have been tampered by men. Simple carbs are when they have gone through a process such as white rice and white bread. So rice originally grows with a brown husk, which contains the bran fiber and the nutrients. In its natural form, brown rice is known as a complex carb. When we strip away the fiber, it becomes a simple carb. This fiber is what helps balance blood sugar levels. But when removed, you are now at risk of increasing those blood sugar levels. This goes the same for white pasta and white bread. But a simple way to switch this up is to replace your white grains with brown whole grain wheat or grains. It's also important to note that fiber is what's needed to keep you full. And I find that I need less of a large portion of rice when I switch my white with brown. When it comes to complex carbs, these guys are the winners. They fuel us with vitamins and minerals, they are high in antioxidants and protect you from foreign invaders and so much more. They help feed the good bacteria within the gut, which contribute to lower cholesterol levels, pointing out that oats actually contain a fiber that have the ability to bind onto cholesterol, removing cholesterol from your blood. I know, pretty amazing, hey? So complete carbohydrates even have the ability to prevent many lifestyle diseases such as type 2, obesity, heart disease, and many cancers. So example of complex carbs: fruits, whole fruits, vegetables, nuts, seeds, beans, legumes, whole grains, herbs, and spices. Eating foods in its most natural form is one of the best ways of improving your health. The benefits of changing our diet and lifestyle. So, firstly, it can improve our moods. Studies show that those who eat more fruits and vegetables are genuinely happier. And who doesn't want to be happier? They can help us maintain a healthy weight. Increasing the diet with more fruits and vegetables and fiber all help to maintain a healthy weight. And we've spoke about how changing our diet and lifestyle can prevent us from certain lifestyle diseases, including our risk of certain cancers. There is a high incidence of certain cancers in Black and minority ethnic communities, and the general incidence of cancer in these communities are sadly rising. And in fact, diabetes can double the risk of liver, pancreas, and endometrial cancer. It increases the risk of colorectal, breast, and bladder cancer by up to 20 to 50%. The fact is, it's never too late to start making changes. And one thing I always recommend is to go slow and steady. Why? Because that's what wins the race. The last thing you want is to get overwhelmed with changing everything. So next, I will share with you simple ways to increase your nutrients and reduce your risk. So our recommendations. The most amazing thing is every day we have the ability to support our bodies in one way or another, and it all comes from making a decision. A decision to be more mindful when in a supermarket, a decision to cook with less oil, or a decision to exercise more. These changes are between you and yourself only. But there are many support systems out there. And just remember that you are not going through this alone. So our first recommendation, aiming to have 5 to 6 different plants on your plate with each meal. You want to increase the fibers, and this is one of the best ways of keeping you full, which helps result in healthy weight loss. But these foods, as mentioned, have the ability to help reduce cholesterol in the blood, feed your bacteria in your gut, which plays a huge role in heart health and immune. So aiming to get not your 5 a day, but your 10 a day into your diet for better health. And in fact, studies show that people who get 30 different fibers into their diet a week have the best diversity of bacteria within the gut, which have been known to lower cholesterol levels, maintain a healthy weight, reduce inflammation, and protect your heart. So when I mention fibers, once again, I am talking about whole foods, your fruits, your vegetables, your nuts, seeds, your beans, and your legumes, spices, herbs, everything in its natural form. Making sure to get 30 minutes of exercise a day into your routine. Now, walking is an exercise. If you find that you are not at your healthiest and you need to go slow, then go slow. Get yourself out the house for as long as you can. If you find that you need more support, stay at home and use YouTube. We have everything at our fingertips these days, and you can find pretty much anything you need on YouTube when it comes to exercise videos. Reducing your oil, fat, and cholesterol intake. We've discussed how oil can be added as wasted calories into your diet. One tip when it comes to cooking: if it is wet, you do not need oil. I repeat, if the meal is wet, you do not need oil. So this goes for your curries, your stews, your soups. As much as we are into this habit of golden browning our spices, it will really benefit your overall health and your heart if you stop using oils where not needed. So I'm going to share a few tips with you to make a smooth transition to reducing your oil intake. One tip: if it's wet, it doesn't need oil. I repeat, if it is wet, it doesn't need oil. So your stews, your curries, and your soups, get used to not starting the pan with oil. Maybe putting a little bit of water in the bottom to soften your herbs and your spices, and then continue cooking. Like I said, I know it's going to be hard, but your health is going to benefit from these simple changes. And then just start measuring how much oil you are using. And maybe you can half it to start, and then over a period of time reducing your intake. Maybe you can mix it part and part with water, and then over time, like I've mentioned, you will be able to reduce. Remember that most vegetable oils, when heated, can in fact be toxic to human health, and when heated, these oils become rancid. Although coconut oil is known to take higher heats, it is incredibly high in saturated fats, which may contribute towards increasing cholesterol levels. And lastly, water. Increasing our water intake to 1.5 to 2 litres a day. I'm talking plain water here, not squash, not Morbi, just plain H2O. I encourage you to drink a tall glass upon rising. And then throughout the day, if you're a snacker, try to have a tall glass of water before you snack, as in many cases, when we are craving, it may be a sign of thirst. So let's look at ideas. So recipe ideas. We can start with a bowl of porridge for breakfast. I mentioned how the mighty oat has the ability to reduce cholesterol from the blood. So can we have a bowl of porridge? How can we bulk that to get 4 to 6 different fibers on our plate? Here we have an image. We've got kiwi fruit, we've got berries, we've got strawberries, but we can add pumpkin seeds in there. We can add maybe a few almond nuts in there. So just finding out different ways to make sure that you're getting 4 to 6 fibers in every meal. For lunch, I've got a bean stew here, or we could have bean stew with like a couscous salad. And for dinner, I've got sweet potato and coconut noodle soup. So these are just easy ways of making sure that you're counting your fiber. We're not looking at calories. If we increase our fiber, this is what keeps us full, which means we no longer have to count the calories. And recipe ideas. So these are two of my favorite bloggers right now. We have the vegan Nigerian who has a plantain shepherd's pie that she's done with lentils, and she's also got a coconut curry here, a coconut curry. And then we have RG Vegan, who is a British Jamaican young talented chef. He makes these delicious meals, as you can see, that are so colourful and definitely don't compromise on taste and flavour. We've got some ackee here, we've got bean stew, we've got plantain, we've got lots of greens. We do have white rice in there, which we mentioned. It's easy to switch out white rice for brown rice. And they have lots of videos on YouTube, so I definitely recommend for you to check them out. So going on to our foods to include. So as you can see, I am focusing mainly on the foods that I want you to include rather than the foods best to avoid. Saying that, I have mentioned that cholesterol is only found in animal products, so we really want to keep focusing on bulking our fruits and vegetables and aiming for those 10 different fruits and vegetables and plants a day. Yeah, that's what we want to see. We want to see that diversity. So we've got examples of fruits. We've got berries, whether they're fresh or frozen, I don't care, but get them into your diet. Bananas, apples, kiwis, pineapple, mangoes, guava, anything that you enjoy, get your fruit into your diet. There's a myth, a common myth, the misunderstanding, especially with type 2 diabetes. Yes, you need to watch your sugar intake, but once you remove the processed sugars from your diet, fruits nourish the body. They're full of vitamins, they're full of minerals, and they also have the fiber that help balance out your blood sugar levels. Maybe you want to prevent too much dried fruit in the diet. That makes sense, as the fruit's been dehydrated, so the sugar intent is higher. But if you have a handful of raisins in your breakfast, then that's okay. So we're looking for it in moderation. Our veg, we definitely want to make sure we've got as many greens in our diet as possible. Our leafy greens, our collard greens, our broccoli, our green beans, cauliflower, cabbage, everything. We want to make sure we're getting greens into the diet twice a day if possible. Our starches, our eddos, potatoes, dasheen, just making sure that we have a balance. The starches we usually associate with weight gain, but can you add more of the other veg on your plate, which means you can still enjoy your starches because they too benefit the body, as they are high in starch, which is good for the bacteria living in your gut, but they also have added nutrients. Getting in our beans, our black-eyed peas, soybeans, kidney beans, black beans, getting in your beans into your diet. We're already mainly doing that with rice and peas. It's a great way, it's a great combination adding rice with peas. If you're having white rice, can you now switch over to having brown rice with your beans? Grains, brown rice, buckwheat, quinoa, amaranth. Whole grains into your diet, nuts and seeds, herbs and spices. So really looking for as colourful diet as we can. We really want to add in as many different fibres into the diet as we can, as this is one of the best ways of keeping full, balancing our blood sugar levels, preventing cravings, and in the long term, dropping the weight naturally, because the body is less likely to crave. And what about salt? Okay, so it's obviously one of the biggest questions when we're talking about hypertension. Salt Yes, salt is a problem if we're having it in abundance, and also the quality of salt. Table salts, I would completely have that out of the kitchen. Is there better alternatives? Sea salt is a better alternative, and so is Himalayan salt. However, no matter what salt it is, they are going to have an impact on your blood pressure. So most of us know about the connection between a diet high in salt and hypertension, but we also know how hard it is to cook without it. Fact is, whether you're adding in 4 Maggies, endless amount of soy sauce and extra salt to your pot, too much salt is going to impact your health. But luckily for you, I am letting you in on a little secret. So behold miso. If you are new to miso, or you've never heard of it, it's a Japanese seasoning. Pretty much, it's a fermented seasoning. It's incredibly salty, and you may have in the past eaten or heard of miso soup. So high salt diets can lead to both hypertension and stomach cancer. However, cultures with high amounts of miso tend to have lowered amounts of both conditions. Miso, although high in sodium, seems to have little to no effect on blood pressure. Studies show that this may be to do with the soy content, but it's great to know that you can make a simple switch from Maggi to miso, as well as gaining benefits from the fermented properties. So you can find miso in most supermarkets, which can come in both brown and white paste. I would aim for soy versus brown rice, but both would be a great replacement to table salt, to Maggi, to soy sauce, or whatever else you are using for flavoring. So today we touched on both hypertension and type 2 diabetes, what they are and how best to reduce our risk. I think by now you got the main message from me, which is to eat your greens daily. Increase your beans, and simple things like switching white grains for brown are a complete game changer. How carbs are not the problem, and why we should reduce our oil and fat intake for long-term health. Filling yourself up on whole foods will not only help you stay full, but is one of the best ways to prevent lifestyle diseases.